Hey everybody, this is Publishing Disrupted, and we have some guests here with us today. My name is Mick Silva, I'm an editor, and we have also...
David Morris, a literary agent and publisher.
Yeah, and we basically are trying to explore the ways in which book publishing is changing and how writers can best meet that challenge.
Amen.
So, welcome, and I want to also welcome our guests here today. We have literary agent Tom Dean.
Hello, hello.
And we also have editor and ghostwriter, Andy Rogers.
Hello.
So you guys, we used to all work together at Zondervan, and this was a lot of fun, just kind of get them in and ask them some questions today. So that's what we plan to do. But, I mean, first
and
off...
we're in person. We're live.
We're live.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
We have 4 mics in this awesome podcast room at our local library. If you didn't know, if we haven't told you that, dear
4
listener.
mics.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had 4 mics the whole time, but we've been like, just 2 of us.
We're getting our money's worth out of
Suppose
our
we had Kara that
taxpayer
one time.
dollars.
Yeah, that's right.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Sorry, I interrupt.
Well, we were at, David and I, we were at Wild Goose recently, festival,
Mm-hmm.
which has music and art and all kinds of talks and fun things like that. But we were talking about like our takeaways from that. And I mean, I'm still kind of processing it. It
Me
was
too.
busy and hot. I got sunburned and it's out in this field in North Carolina. And, it's just, it's very, I don't know. I don't know if hippie is the right word, but it feels very like
Earthy, organic.
granola, crunchy. Yeah, yeah, it definitely was that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
When you were a real trooper staffing the Lake Drive Books
we had a Lake Drive
table
books,
with our books on display.
table.
Thank you. And I got to get out a little bit more. But we were just at the booth a lot, which was really awesome. For me, the big takeaway was just in this world of like digital marketplace, where you're in publishing, especially you're talking about, social media following and email list and other things regarding platform like speaking, professional network or what have you. But to just be at a table and to watch people walk by and discover some of our books, some of the ones that are maybe a little older too, there's not as much activity going on, and they just picked it up. I posted about it on Instagram saying it was the joy of watching the joy of people discovering books and wanting to discover books. That just felt so good. And now I'm like, all right, where's all the book fairs within like a 2-hour drive, and where can I set up more tables? And it was the sales were nice to have, but it was just more watching that going on and having conversations with people, which is what you were really good at.
That was fun.
Yeah.
I was there while you were doing some sessions, and people would just come by, pick up a book, and start reading it, and it was fun because I'm, of course, taking the time to read a book as well. Like I think Spearing's books coming up, Catherine Spearing's. 1,000 Tiny Paper Cuts coming out.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah.
So you had like one copy there that I was just
Right.
sort of commandeering the entire time.
Yeah.
And then I'd be reading, and they were reading, and they're like, "Oh, I see a theme with these books." Kind of like, I was trying to remember your brand, which is Heal, Grow,
And discover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We had bookmarks.
Yeah, we did. We had bookmarks.
What?
And I'm like,
Impressive.
take a bookmark. And then people were like, oh, thanks. And then they'd write their name down or maybe their email or something. So, yeah, that was just fun, the hand selling kind of thing. Like, I'm not a sales guy, so I never really had done that. But, yeah,
Yeah, it was good.
I'll keep thinking about it,
Yeah.
what my actual takeaways
Yeah.
are. But anyway, we need to get to, like, some intros, like some actual background and stuff. So, Tom Dean, Mr. Literary Agent, tell me just, like, a nutshell of your background and what you do.
Publishing has been my career. I tell people all the time, I have ink in my blood. At least I feel like it. I grew up, reading, just reading, like fell in love with reading as a child. And I think that's a big part of what drew me to publishing. But sales, product development, and marketing, kind of like the 3 areas that I've been in most of my career. My biggest stint was almost 20 years at Zondervan.
Wow. Great. Very cool.
And then I launched out 5 years ago, launched A Drop of Ink.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, literary agency.
correct.
And yeah, Very cool.
And at Zondervan, you worked on some best-selling titles.
I did.
And worked with a ton of authors.
Yep.
And I learned from you the phrase that marketing is all the gory, not the glory.
Yeah. Yes. I told my team all the time, editors get the glory, marketing gets the glory.
Oh, I
Yeah.
see. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense.
Because it's
No
true.
wonder.
Like, I
Yeah.
mean, think about it.
That's true.
An editor, took a manuscript from an author, good, bad, or otherwise, and made it much better. And so they were just, like an editor in an author's eyes does the magic.
Rightly so.
But
Did the acquisition too.
Right. But if something went wrong, didn't matter if it was sales, distribution, it was marketing's fault. Always.
Oh, you were on
Yep.
point for
That's terrible.
dealing with it quite
right.
often.
Yes.
Yeah.
Getting the earful from, the agent or the author.
Yeah. Man, and you don't have to deal with that anymore. I mean, well, you probably still do.
I mean,
to some
what's
degree.
interesting
Yeah.
is, you learn about how you want to. I certainly picked up which agents I really loved working with, and those that were maybe a little more challenging. And I try to model how I act as an agent after those that I really enjoyed working with. I think that's important.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that makes sense.
Yeah. That's what I
Cool.
do that too. It's like, what kind of agent did I like, and what do I want to be that agent? And
Right.
just take all the best. Because we saw the agents.
Yes.
Andy, you did too. Mick, you did too.
Yeah.
We saw what worked, what we liked about agenting, and maybe didn't like.
Mm-hmm.
Not to pick on any one person. It was just more of a composite of what we were hoping for to do
Mhm.
these days. What
Right.
are you up to? What's something recent for you, Tom?
I took a 3-week sabbatical in July. That was
Wow.
recent.
There you go.
Yeah, so there you go. Off the grid. No, I wasn't completely off the grid, but no meetings, and did some travel with my wife and grandkids, so that was fun. That's kind of like
Summer.
recently family stuff. The fall is busy. I've got 10 projects for my authors releasing, so a lot of last minute PR and marketing calls, making sure that all the boxes are checked as far as how we're launching a book. So
Right.
I think that's how I set myself apart as an agent, is my marketing background, and I bring that knowledge to the process with my authors, and I think for the most part they really appreciate that.
It's very
That's-
valuable.
That's great. That's good. Andy, what brings you to book publishing?
Oh, what brings me to book publishing? Just
What do you
loving to read.
Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
what.
your background?
So I started in retail and then
Yes.
moved to a publisher.
I thought you were a drummer first.
I was. We could do a whole other podcast on how I wanted to be a rock star, and that didn't work out. No.
That was your undergraduate degree, though.
That was, yeah,
Yeah.
that was. And I actually went and got a post. It wasn't a graduate degree. It was like an unaccredited training program for studio musicians.
Wow.
So I got my undergrad degree. Then I went to LA and went to this 1-year program that's now accredited. It's now an undergrad degree. But I went through this 1-year program to like fast track your way into the studio.
Yeah.
It was really interesting.
Oh, wow.
That's not a lot different than being a editor, a ghostwriter, working in a sort of a process, a studio, a system. Yeah.
Yeah.
It gave me a background on the entertainment industry, or at least a facet of it,
Huh.
the way music is made,
Sure.
that doesn't have direct connections to my work, but does have connections, because I've worked with famous people, or I've been in situations where there's famous people in the room or big money, and
Yep. And you're
I don't
creating
know, I
an
feel a
end
little
goal
more
product.
comfortable in it. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a product at the end of that.
So
Cool.
yeah, but I went from retail to a publisher. Excuse me. And so I had that experience hand selling books that you were talking about at the beginning, and I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For 15 months, I worked at one of the largest independent Christian bookstores in the country, if not the largest. And our joke at that time was always that people would come in and go, my pastor talked about this great book on Sundays. It's got this blue cover. It's about God. So we were always looking for a blue book about God. But I truly enjoyed what you were talking about, that joy of discovery.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed being in that setting because I have a high radar, I feel anyway, of what annoys me in a retail store. So I never wanted to annoy another person. So they'd come in and I'd say like, hey, what can I help you find? You know, are you looking for something? And based on however they spoke to me, I would keep talking to them or I'd back off. But I really enjoyed that, like trying to help them find a book.
Right.
Especially if all they had to go on was a blue book about God. It was like, there are thousands of those in here.
Yeah.
Did you create a blue book section
Yeah.
you could just send them over to? Yeah.
What
Yeah,
would a
probably one
black
of these.
book about God?
Yeah.
be?
I don't know.
Yeah, right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I went from there into publishing. I was in marketing first, and then I moved to editorial. So I heard the same thing that you talked about with your team, but not as eloquently. I didn't hear the glory and gory part. I just heard, if the book is good, then it was beautifully written. And if the book sells, it was beautifully written. If the book doesn't sell, well, the marketing sucked.
Yeah.
That was how I heard it.
Pretty much.
That's
There
the
was-
same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was never an author who ever said, I wrote a bad book, you know, or an editor who said, oh, I acquired a real lemon.
Yeah,
right.
It was always the
A
marketing.
dud.
It was kind of
Yeah.
a stinker from the start, to be honest. you
Yeah.
know? Like, no one says that.
No.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I worked in marketing 5 years, and then I worked for a global ministry that publishing is its primary way of doing ministry. And then I went back to major publisher as an acquiring editor. And I was acquiring editor at the ministry. So I've had this experience of being both in editorial and marketing and both for a family-run ministry and a like large corporate, you know, typical publisher, one of the big five. So I feel like I've been blessed, I guess, in that way because I've had these different experiences. And now I'm freelance. I've been doing it almost 3 years, and I'm primarily a ghostwriter. But I do a lot of developmental editing too. So it's probably 60-40 or 75-25,
Sure.
leaning toward writing.
Well, and I think that's interesting too, because I mean, you do some editing or at least constructive work, right? Developing.
For sure. Well, yes. And again, like I tell my authors all the time, like I do not have an English degree or an advanced, you know, literature degree, but I do understand what good content is. And I can read a sample chapter and tell you, hey, this has promise or you need a lot of work. I don't know where we're going with this, but
Well, just that we all,
yeah, we all
tend to have that editorial skill.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have a
Yeah.
balance of skill sets.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely.
But speaking of skill sets, what I loved about working with Andy at Zondervan, with you know me on the marketing side, Andy on the editorial side, is he brought that because of his marketing background. He had kind of like marketing, you know,
Sure.
creative right brain that he would bring to the process of the editorial, acquiring, but then also bringing the book to market. And so I oftentimes championed that with, you know, with the author, with the agent. Like, look what you're getting in Andy. Like, he's got, you know, marketing skills and also really good editorial skills.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, and you
So-
can continue that now as he's
Yes,
a freelancer.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
we
Tom
have.
and I have worked together a few
Yep,
times.
We've collabed on some projects, which has been great.
Yeah.
And what's going on with you right now, Andy?
So I'm always in the middle of, you know, 3 or 4 books at the same time. So I just signed up to write a biochemist book. We're at the very beginning
Wow.
stages. Like, what's the outline going to be? What's the hook? You know, why is this book going to matter? We're asking all those core questions. So I've got a stack of science books now next to my bed that I'm looking at. They're all tomes, you know,
That's fun.
looking at it, thinking, how do I make science accessible and interesting? I'm also at the finishing stages. I'm going to write the last chapter this week for a Christian counselor. And I should say the biochemist is an atheist.
Okay.
And my faith came up during our interview process, which I thought, oh, here goes. They're going to pick somebody else,
Sure.
you know. But they evidently liked my answers. So,
Yeah.
so I'm writing for a Christian counselor right at the end of this project. It's a very heavy project. It's about sexual abuse of children. So it's been a
Goodness.
very heavy book, but very important book. And then I'm kind of in the middle of a book with an ultramarathon runner who's been signed by Simon & Schuster. So it's a big deal.
Oh, nice.
Very excited about
I think
that.
Tom had something to do with that, right? No.
We
Yes.
had some early. Yes, we had some early.
Tom introduced me to this
Yes.
client.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like we've got to turn a chapter in a month
Yeah.
for the acquiring
Oh, wow.
editor.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's writing fast. You know,
Yeah.
the running marathon metaphor is always in my head because I've been working with this author for 2 years. It's been great. But writing with him is also like a sprint. Like we got to do it now, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. You actually went running with this author
oh yeah.
and you joined him on an endurance event.
Yes.
And just to kind of get to know his experience.
Well, that
which
was
is-
him.
yeah.
He wanted me there. He does all these ultra marathon events that require crew. So people that support the runner during these like 100-mile, 200-mile events
Yeah.
that give them food and electrolytes and bandage
Oh,
their
my
wounds, you know.
word.
So
200 miles.
yeah, and these are volunteer things. These are not like jobs.
Yeah.
These are friends that they pull in.
I'm feeling it in my body, like the hurt,
Isn't
because I
that
run a little
insane?
bit, but like 200. I mean, there's
It's
just
insane. It's amazing.
wow.
But he likes to bring in friends of his that have never been to an endurance event so they can experience it. And since I'm working with him, it was all the more like, I want you to see my world.
Okay.
So he brought me out there,
Wow.
and it was amazing.
So instead of like a publishing junket with catered food and everything, it was power bars and
Yes.
water bottles.
And lots of
Yep.
Gatorade.
It was yes.
Different kind of pain, I guess. Gee whiz.
Yep.
Well, good for you. That's amazing. I typically work on multiple at a time. I mean, I know
Yeah.
you do, Tom, as well, and David, of course, as publisher. And we wear different hats. Maybe we're different forward-facing. I mean, in terms of like the clients we work with and what we offer them. But I like the fact that we all have a similar skill set, and we love books, and we just I kind of adore authors. I had to be very careful when I first started out as an editor because I would just sort of put them on a pedestal. And I had to kind of break that down and go, okay, what we're going to be talking about here, it can be very humbling, right, for everyone involved, because we're trying to take something apart, put it back together, and it's often, a difficult sort of journey. I mean, taking things apart is never fun, but then helping someone along the way, you get to know them really well. And so you can break down a lot of the barriers. And David and I, as PKs, really dislike the pretense of things that happens.
Preacher's kids.
It feels as though a lot of times the glad handing, where you go to conferences and you feel like you have to be on or representative of a house, that can be kind of off-putting in the job. But then you get into the actual nuts and bolts of a project with someone, and it totally breaks that down. It feels like it's almost this inviting way behind the curtain with that author. And I hope that translates often to the reader, that that's something we can then capture on the page. So that's just something that I think I've connected with all of you individually about, and I was excited to kind of come and discuss like why we do what we do, like what's the excitement for you. I mean, that's a glimpse into the excitement for me, but like, I don't know, let's just go around the room. Like, David, I know a bit about like what excites you about the process, because we've been talking about that on this podcast in terms of the disruption and stuff, right? We get a thrill from that as much as it's frustrating. But like, share a little bit about what you enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely enjoy doing different things from a publishing point of view, because publishing is a business that has been around a long time. It's super mature. It's not really growing. If you look at the big five and the amount of revenue they're doing, it's they're not netting more. They're netting less when you count inflation, and there's more consolidation going on. That's how they're making money these days. And they have books that sell really well sometimes. But then there's like very few middle-level publishers, and there's a lot of us grassroots publishers. It's a time of big change in publishing. Right. And so I'm excited about doing things in an innovative way. This morning I was listening to a podcast about Independent Book Publishers Association podcast on how to set up a hybrid publisher, which is technically what I do, but I call it like traditional publishing with an untraditional financial model. But I'm also toughening up my language, saying, no, I'm a trade publisher with a hybrid financial model.
That's great.
And I actually think that more publishers should be considering that. Even those who have paid advances in the past, pay pay very little advance or no advance, but up that author royalty and really partner with the author in making sure sales last on a backlist basis.
Yes.
That's great.
Over time. So there's little things like that, and I could say more, like helping authors with author platforms, being more involved in that as a publisher, and I could say more about that too. But I think the biggest why for me is, I mean, I have a academic background. I didn't go into drumming. I was more about psychology.
You wanted to, though,
psychology and religion. Yeah. I haven't had a guitar since I was about the same age. I don't play as good a guitar or drums as you do, Andy. But so I've always, as a preacher's kid, grew up in evangelical. I've always been fascinated with how people struggle with faith in this really like vast religious landscape that's America. And there's so many ways to talk about being, religious or Christian. There's just so much change going on. So many people going, across a different continuum. And I wrote my dissertation on what happens when people lose their faith that they grew up with and where do they go from there. And I think with Lake Drive Books, because I'm not stuck to a denominational structure or a large profit-driven company that's trying to, connect with the vast market of religious mindsets in the United States, I can do things that feel more like a sense of change, coupled with a business model that makes it feel like more sense of change. So I'm really motivated to do what I'm doing. It's just there's a lot of potential for exhaustion.
It's very difficult. There's a lot of hats you're wearing. Yeah. I think you wear the most hats, and now podcast host as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
Sort of wrangled you into.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a fun time to kind of explore that with you, and like I'm excited about having you guys here too, just to hear more. Because I mean, it's probably selfish too. I'm a bit of a vampire in this way. I love to just feed off of people's energy for books, right? It's just it's something I love to do. And then when we hear from people who've either been guests or like listen to the podcast, it's always that. It's the excitement of books, and that's still possible in our like multimedia age, where it's like people don't read, and we did a whole episode on do men read,
I love that. Yes.
It's like, yes, of
We know
course they
Tom
do.
does. That's
Yeah.
true. I
We're
never
four
heard
men
you
and
say
we
it
read.
that way before.
What's that?
I never heard you say it that way before, that you've been a big reader since you were a kid.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ink in your blood.
Yeah, ink is in my blood. A project that I'm working on right now, or actually it's a proposal that I have in front of a number of publishers, is Read Your Color by Stephen J. Reese, who has developed this quiz that you take, and it helps you determine what kind of a reader you are. There's 6 different colors.
Interesting.
And his overall kind of like theme of the book is people give up on reading because they're reading the wrong books. There is a challenge in the book too, though, to expand your expand outside of your general interest. But he developed this quiz that over 2 million people have taken, and it's a really kind of art and science.
Wow.
It's a really fascinating project. So I'm excited to see what kind of, like, I've already had broad market interest. So
that's great.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see.
People
where
will
that
start
goes.
saying what their color is rather than
That's just it.
Enneagram type, maybe.
Yep.
Yeah.
It is exactly.
That's
you
really
go
good.
check it out. Like, he's got a huge following. He's developed this massive email list that his Substack is just blown up, which like, talk about platform, like, yes, all day long. Give me an author with an email list over social media platform all day long.
Right.
So are all God books blue for blue readers?
Yeah, right. I'll just tell you, I'm a yellow reader. So,
Okay.
Which means
Yeah.
what?
which means I love books that are. I do read a lot of memoirs and bios, and I love just learning about things and people and time and space and history. Recent reads were Hanged by the story of Mary Surratt, who was the co-conspirator in the John Wilkes Booth, who assassinated Lincoln.
Yeah.
She ran the boarding house. Fascinating, well-researched.
Wow.
The first American female to be hanged for a crime in America.
Wow.
kind of I mean, it's a dark story.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a true story. It's a dark story. That's just one example of a yellow reader.
Yeah.
That's a byline nobody wants. First
Yeah.
person to be hanged for.
Yeah,
Right.
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 Exactly. Yeah.
Sounds too much for your platform.
No, right.
Ooh, that was bad.
Different
Yeah.
kind of platform.
We didn't get to,
Try to
your
stay
why
away.
exactly. You are a reader.
Yeah.
But what would be?
Yeah. I mean, somebody early in my career shared the phrase that ultimately became the name of my company. They shared with me the phrase, "A drop of ink may make a million think." And that was kind of a mark. I mean, she was a publicist. I was a junior advertising, just getting started in my career.
Huh.
But, so you think about that phrase. Lord Byron was an English poet in the 1800s who wrote that. And, it works across a number of, it works for a number of reasons. It certainly works in marketing, but it for sure works, for readers, right? A drop of ink may make a million think. And so that's, a drop of ink was available, .pub was available. My daughter was like, "Dad, pub for publishing." I'm like, "Yeah, pub for have a beer." I love the impact a book or a drops of ink can make for myself, as a reader, but also for people that are reading the projects that my authors are writing.
It's a great feeling.
Yep.
To be able to be an agent in making that happen. Have agency in making it happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. And being able to, one of the things we talked about, in this chapter of life, pun intended, is being able to say yes to projects that excite me and say no to those that you've got a good idea, but I don't think I'm the right partner for, the right agent for you. To have that freedom and flexibility.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. After 20 years of being in marketing and just whatever comes down the pike.
Yep. Right. I mean, having some say in, who wants to work on this or assigning things and then taking, things. I was a working VP, so I would take on projects myself, but you're right. Ultimately somebody's got to deal with this author or this agent or this book, so.
And the guy in charge generally has to step in. Yeah, that's great. That's great. I mean, that takes you right to the heart level of why we do what we do. Yeah, that's really good. Andy, how about you? You brought notes. I'm a little intimidated.
Well, I didn't bring notes about the why, but I can't answer that question.
Okay, yeah.
I think the why for me is the creative work and just the love for good writing.
Yeah.
So when I talk to people about what I do or how I got into ghostwriting, I'll try to explain how a book is made, how it goes from concept to on their shelf. Because if you don't work in publishing, I've found most people have no idea how books come about, which is fine. But where I see my editorial work and my ghostwriting overlapping and why it was easy for me to go from one to the other is they're both at the very beginning of the creative process. They're in the concept phase. They're in the book proposal phase. It's just the editor is taking the writer's ideas and honing it and making it sharper, making it fit the house style or whatever. Whereas the writer is taking the author's ideas, the ghostwriter is taking the author's ideas and getting them down on the page. But they're both early in the process.
Right.
So that creative aspect of it has always been a motivator for me. That's the fun part. And even when I was an acquisitions editor, part of my job was acquiring the books, as you all know, bringing it to the pub board and making an argument for it and finding saleable books that would bring a profit and all that. But the part about my job that I really enjoyed actually happened after that pitch was done and the book was contracted, and that was the creative work with the author, doing the developmental edit of the book or, helping them. Sometimes authors didn't even have the manuscript written, or many times, and they were still asking questions like, how should I end my book? Kind of getting to enter that part of the creative work. That was the part of being an AE that I really enjoyed.
Acquiring editor.
Yeah, acquiring editor was actually after the hunt was done. And I didn't really know that until I was already an AE. So it was natural for me, once I started working with ghostwriters as an AE, it was natural for me to think, oh, this is the next job. Because I remember David hired me, and I, was having a great time, but I'm always thinking, like, what's my job going to be in 5 years? What's going to be in 10 years? I just think that way. And there was another editor on the team who had a storied career, veteran, and I just couldn't see myself going in that direction. I couldn't see myself, after I'd been there about a year or 2 years, I thought, I don't know if I can do this for 20 or 30 years. She loved it.
A lot.
Yeah. And I didn't the same way. So I started right away thinking, like, what am I going to do next? And by then I had already been a writer, maybe for 10 years or more, but I wasn't getting paid for it yet. Not a lot. I was writing little articles here and there. I might get $50 or something, but most of my writing was just creative writing.
Yeah.
Anyway, I started working with ghostwriters, and I saw the overlap, and I realized, like, oh, that's fun. That's more fun than, no offense to agents, but then wooing an agent, which sometimes if there isn't a relationship, it can just feel like you're just wooing a stranger based on talking points,
Right.
That's not true when you really know somebody. Like, I've worked with Tom several times. I know how he cares for his authors. I know the amount of work he puts into it. I know his heart. Like, it's a joy to work with an agent like that. But as an acquisitions editor, sometimes you're working with people you've barely met or never met.
Right.
And
that's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was one of the stressors of the job for sure at Zondervan. It often felt as though you're sort of at the luck of the draw, right? With the type of agent you're getting, or even authors. I mean, to some degree, because the content or the platform sort of dictated, and now you have to figure out, how do I work with this? And often it turns into, how do I manage this without it going off the rails, right? Now in sort of the way Tom was describing it, and we have before, like, you get to work with the people you choose, and to some degree, you can see a little bit more upfront who it is you're working with, and then make more executive decisions, right?
Yes.
Right.
That is, you've put your finger on, I think, the joy and one of the hardest parts about being a freelancer. And that is what you just described. You get to work with who you want to work with, and you can say no to who you want to say no to. And you don't have to build consensus with anyone. Like, I've described being an AE as consensus building.
Yeah, and that was all of our job.
Yeah,
we all had to work
to get
with
everybody on board.
Right. There was consensus, but also sometimes working with on projects you didn't necessarily want
Absolutely
to touch as much.
Yes, but the flip side of that coin, I guess, like, now I have the freedom to say no, but it's also on me and my unpaid time to figure out, do I want to work with this person? So it's like, how many hours am I going to put into figuring out if I want to do this before I even sign on?
Right.
And when you're a freelancer building your business,
a lot of nodding heads going on. These independent employed people here.
You can put hours and hours into things and never get paid for it. So that to me is a real tension.
Yeah.
That hours and hours, you cannot. I'll have authors often, we'll get so far down the road in a conversation, and then they'll ask, well, how do you get paid?
Yes.
Like, well, I don't get paid as an agent until I land a book deal. So that's why not to be crass, but like, is this a commercially viable idea? I mean, that is top of mind.
Right.
And so, I have some accountability to my wife because she would like to buy groceries this week, right? Yeah. So I cannot spend hours and hours of my time unpaid by you, or seeing that this project's not going to go anywhere.
Right. Yep. Yeah, that does put kind of a damper on things pretty quickly. Well, and that's why in service to agents and publishers, I think editors and even ghostwriters can help to sort of vet some of these projects. And that is one thing I've offered as a service. I don't know if you read proposals, Andy, for people, or do you
not
need
as
proposal
a service?
work?
I usually write them, or I'll edit them, but I haven't created a service where I just read and review them.
Yeah. It's something I've done just sort of ad hoc, I guess, for other agents when they ask, because an author needs that kind of help. But for an agent to do that is kind of a commitment, and they're not necessarily ready. Like, they don't necessarily see right up front, what is the saleable idea? What is this marketable, commercial, as you say, concept here? And how do we bring that front and center? And so, that tends to be something that I I mean, it's still speculative. It's still a talk with someone
Right.
at a conference and asking them what that is, and they don't know necessarily what's the hook and how to describe that. So yeah, getting to that more quickly is something I sort of offer as part of my service. You're trying to do that too, David, in terms of like identifying that quickly, right? And the quicker the better. I mean, for all of us, obviously, but
Yep.
like we should probably do an episode on what's the hook.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like how do you describe that?
Or what's your decision-making process?
And
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think there's sort of a social contract that you submit a proposal to a publishing professional. They're going to read it. They're going to digest it. Sometimes we even get submitted whole manuscripts, and with somewhat of an expectation that you're going to read this. You're going to want to read this. When we're already reading a lot of other things for the everyday the business we've already signed or agreed to work on. So that I think that's interesting. I think this has come up a little bit here, is just how do we make decisions, especially now that we're on our own, about projects that come our way, because it's not easy to really. I mean, sometimes I'll get distracted and just want to read something I really like, and then maybe get involved. But then I'll look at some other aspects of it and like, oh, I shouldn't have spent that much time digging into that one.
They don't have any platform at all.
Perhaps,
or whatever.
Yeah. So I mean, that. I think for me, it used to always be like, as a publisher, I would be the one to kind of look at the bigger issue with the business side of it. So I would look straight at the platform aspects of a proposal. Whereas now, on my own now, it's more like, well, let me get to see the writing, and even just after a paragraph or two, sometimes you can just tell this person's putting sentences and paragraphs together well, and maybe you've looked at the structure of the book and more than that, but if the writing itself isn't great, you're going to notice that almost right away. And that means even if you like the concept, even if the platform's great, you're going to be spending a lot of time, or someone's going to be spending a lot of time and money on getting the writing into shape. And so that's a big concern, especially for me as a small, operator now. To hire a freelancer to edit a manuscript, like the longer a manuscript is, the more costly it is. The more work it requires, the more costly it is. So those are some one sort of litmus test.
Yeah.
But anyway, enough about me.
No, I think this is why we're here, because we want to know how it works, and to help authors just to kind of get the lay of the land and understand some of the tensions, right? And we're all comfortable with holding these things in tension. Obviously, we want to sell books at the end of the day, but we want them to be good books, and we want the authors to deserve to be a big-time author, right?
Yep.
Sometimes I've platformed authors, and I've warned them, even ahead of time, if you turn into a jerk through this process, I'm going to feel really, really bad.
You mean
and
that
I'm
happens?
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to feel complicit. Like, I platformed you, or at least helped.
You mean if they get famous and they
aided
turn
and abetted that?
Right.
Yeah. And I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen it happen too, even after that conversation. And it's really frustrating. And so it's one of those things that I kind of carry with me. You don't know necessarily who's going to turn out to be, like bright and shiny lights. Like they like the attention. And I think a lot of times an author is ultimately kind of an insecure sort of person. I think just like personality wise, it tends to attract people who are a little bit insecure when it comes to like standing on their own 2 feet or like speaking their things out clearly. It's like you go to writing because you either can't do that in person, and this is getting a little bit like meta, but like you can't speak very well. Like I think that I just hear that a lot from writers. Oh, I'm not a speaker. Like, well, you're going to have to be at some point, and then they become speaker, and then they're like proud of themselves, and it's like they become this almost ego machine. Like, oh, I can do this. Oh, I'm getting a lot of praise.
It's like an opposite reaction, which is very psychological in a way.
It's like, oh,
yeah. Now that they're famous, it's like, well, now I can just,
because it feels good after having been kind of insecure for a while, and now you get attention for this thing, and you're like, wow, maybe I am special. And
I think an author's immaturity as they get into this publishing process and they get more successful, you see that on the business side of things.
You do
more.
Yeah.
They might be really like well loved as a pastor of a church, for example, and then you see how they handle things when it comes down to contracts and financial terms and marketing and editor and even editing, how they handle that stuff, what's their professionalism level like. You see some differences. these are the things we can't tell while we are in a big publishing house.
Right? Yeah.
Right.
You almost want
That's
to
right.
ask them up front, like, are you humble? Do you
I
understand?
mean,
like-
yeah,
I know
I wish
some
there was a
very famous
test you
people.
could.
I
Yeah,
know.
right. Here,
Yeah.
take this humility test before I even, have
That
an
would be
initial
good.
conversation
Yeah.
with you, right?
Forget the Myers-Briggs.
Yeah.
You need a humility test.
Yeah.
Right. Can
Yeah.
you be taught? Are you someone who will
Right.
take advice? It's that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Yeah. And being able to ask that up front, I know I'm putting people on the spot, but I don't want to work with someone if they're going to turn out to be no fun.
Mm.
This is all true for most authors, but this conversation has made me think of the few times, I know this happened to all of us, where our house acquired somebody who was already a bestseller
Sure.
and they came with a reputation. Or even if they were a mid-list author, they came with a reputation. So maybe that's something for the listeners, is just whatever your experience is at your first publishing house, however you treat those people. If you try to go and get published in the same marketplace by a different publisher, it's very likely that team is going to know your reputation,
Yeah.
because they know,
Mhm.
we all know people at different
Yep.
publishing houses. And we
Mhm.
all,
Yeah.
so every now and then I think we did, or at least I did, work with people that I thought, I know this guy's got a bad
Yeah.
reputation.
Mhm.
I'm going to have to,
Or I've heard
Yeah.
about this.
or,
one. Yeah.
he'll be easy with the editorial, but he'll be killer on the marketing team. Like that was true
Yeah.
a lot, or he'll be very hard to please with the cover.
Yeah.
His team has to do the cover.
Yeah.
Don't even bother. I remember some authors that way.
Yeah, no, I remember that too. Yeah, they
You
kind of
know.
come with those expectations. It's like
Yeah.
the green room, stories that you hear.
Completely.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, we're going to need to have these things so they feel comfortable, and they're going to need the
Yeah.
limo, and I mean that was even happening at the early stage for me
Right.
as an editor, like
Yeah.
people with the expectations showing up because they're big names, and like some of that is earned. I mean, quite clearly, I feel like there is a division here. It's not like all the people who have the limos and all the accolades are bad people. I'm not
no.
in no
Yeah,
way
not
saying
at all.
that. I think what's the difficulty there is that largely it can get to people's heads. And
Mhm.
be careful is the warning I hear you saying, Andy.
Yeah.
Be careful as an author
Yeah,
to treat people the way you want to be treated from the very beginning,
sure,
and then you won't have this problem,
sure.
right?
Yeah,
I know
absolutely.
that's difficult. It's easier said than done.
I do
but-
remember one author in particular. I won't name her name, but she was the opposite of all that. She was someone who came in, and I remember on the marketing side, she was asking questions like, "What do I do next? I did that. Okay, you told me to do this. I did that. Now what do I do?" Even as publisher, I could kind of see that conversation going on and that whole demeanor about her. And she was a person of color and relatively new to publishing, did have a name that in her family that helped out. But oh my gosh, she surprised everybody in terms of
Yep.
the sales on her first book. You might even be
I
able to
know.
guess, Tom, what I'm talking
I know
about.
exactly what you're
Yeah,
talking about.
yeah,
Yep.
and I always was super impressed by that individual, just because of her
Yeah.
professionalism, her business-like manner, and how she approached her content.
And she had a good team around her
Mhm.
as well, which, I mean, a lot of authors in their, debut stages may be solo, but, so that means there's more that more plates they're trying to keep spinning. But when you can have a team, even if it's just one additional person,
Right.
that's
Right.
always, I see, that's always a win. I want to finish that statement. I see that with my own authors who have teams where they can focus on the important things, like
Right.
keep up with your Substack, be consistent. I don't care if it's once a month, once a week, whatever, just be consistent, so that author's doing that. They're focused on, the media interviews, only the things that they can do, but those ancillary things that other people on your team could do, like,
Right.
yeah, let them do it.
Yeah, and that would be sort of an assistant with the social media and maybe
Social
publicity
media,
type
scheduling,
requests,
PR,
yeah.
just being responsive. Like,
Yeah.
goodness sakes, that's a non-negotiable.
I mean,
for
I think
me.
a lot of authors just like breathed a sigh of relief to hear that, because as soon as you can afford to hire someone like that, now you don't have to do a lot of
Right.
that
Yeah.
sort of like
Yes.
wrangling of these types of interviews on podcasts and all the stuff you have to do once your book comes out. That's
Yep.
going to be heavy.
Yep.
That's great.
Well, we're actually running out of time here, but
yeah.
and we're supposed to go get lunch where we're really going to talk about the dirty
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Then we can name names.
but our podcast is called Publishing Disrupted.
Yeah.
And Mick and I have certainly talked about how with the disruption we've seen, we've kind of come into that topic now and then. And just a lot of it is, we found ourselves on the outside of big corporate life, which wasn't necessarily our choice. That's how it works for a lot of people. There's a lot of, the publishing industry in terms of number of employees has not grown. I think maybe it has gone down. I think there was a recent Publishers Weekly article about it. Now you might say, well, that's this or that's that. But I mean, all of publishing probably has fewer employees than Microsoft, Wow. And so it's definitely a business. It's not the same. And we're all outside it now of corporate publishing, trying to interpret that. Maybe start, Andy, with you. Like, how do you see what you're doing as responding? Like, what disruption and change have you seen, and how do you see yourself responding to it with in your role now?
Oh, yeah. So I think the disruption I've heard you all talk about on the podcast before, and that's just the rise of quality independent publishing or hybrid publishing.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's easier now for people to publish really high quality books than it was 20 years ago or 10 years ago.
Sure.
And, you can even get an audiobook, you can get an ebook, if you have the means, you can produce as high quality book as any traditional publisher.
Mm-hmm.
And I think where I've seen the disruption is if the author knows that they need good editorial work and they end up talking with me, because a lot of authors will skip that, unfortunately. That's where they'll save their money. I've worked with several authors that I've thought, you could traditionally publish this book. The hook is that good.
Mm-hmm.
You really do have something unique to say. And what they've said to me is they've been like, yeah, but then I'd have to create a platform, and I just don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard that from multiple people.
Interesting.
Now, these are people that have enough money to do a book, so that they're not, fresh out of college with no money or something. So they have a career. They've built up at least a modicum of savings to put towards this passion project. So I have to think about who I'm talking with. But they are opting out of the whole platform thing.
Yeah.
They've read about it. They don't need me to explain it. They know what it is. And they just don't care. They don't want to do it. And so, but they still want their book, and they still maybe have a network or a business that they can promote the book through, or even an email list.
Okay. Yep.
But they're just choosing to kind of say, no, I'm going to have my own publishing experience, and it's not going to include platform building. And I've just thought a little bit like, well, will that mean that all traditional publishers only publish people as it's already gone, but will they continue to only publish people with platforms that are willing to put the work in and build it up and do all that? And then you have really good independent books with great hooks that could have been traditionally published, could have been New York Times bestsellers, but they're not because of a platform. And I feel like that's a disruption. Like, we're going to find more and more really good books out there.
Yeah.
I'm working with a guy right now through Readsy as a freelancer, and he was
Readsy is a
service for anyone in publishing, any number of different roles in publishing, where you can go and as an independent author, you can scroll through people based on filter searches. I want a children's book editor has X amount of years of experience, and and then pick people. So I'm on there as an editor. No, I'm on there as a ghostwriter. He wanted me to ghostwrite his book, but when he realized what the expense was, he decided to finish the manuscript himself and has asked me to edit it. But it's still through Readsy. So anyway, he's one that he's got the career. If he chose to build a platform, he's got something really unique to say and an amazing career in his field. He's got a great book, a great hook, could go for it, and he's just opting out.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't want that, don't need it.
I mean, in a way, it's like good for him,
Yeah. It's really interesting because the big houses that I think, they would publish this book if you had a platform, they're not even going to get to look at it.
Right.
And he's content then to market the book to his already built-in network. I mean, he probably does have some platform if you were to really look at everything there.
He doesn't have the social media,
Right.
front-facing. He's not known.
Yeah, but he's
among the average
getting out to
person.
he's not worrying about mass sales, mass
Right.
market sales. He's more local, more connected.
Yep. In
I
his
think
industry.
there's something even kind
Yeah.
of spiritual about that in a way, even though that may not be. But yeah,
Well, then he's still continuing to work in his industry in a consulting
right.
role now, and so part of this is he's just going to be promoting this is his core message. This is his life
Interesting,
message,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and he'd
There's a lot
rather
of that.
just do that.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's not a rehashed idea. This felt very fresh to me.
Yeah.
So
I mean, in a way, that might bring you a platform just for being such an anomaly, for being so
Mhm.
anti-platform. Now I'm interested, Well, I want to publish this guy,
Yeah.
Like I feel that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you do, David,
Yeah.
but like that feels so authentic and humble, right?
Yeah.
And kind of the things that we're talking about here.
But as an former acquisitions editor for a publisher who would have published this book had it come across our desk, I was thinking I would have never even seen this,
Right.
Yep.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah. No, that is a disruption. I think there are more people like that out there. Yeah. How about you, Tom?
I mean, I'm just going to build on that. Like, I have it's weekly that I have conversations with authors who are like looking at which path should or could I take, traditional versus assisted self-publishing or hybrid. And, oftentimes they are saying, yeah, I've got the resources and I don't want to mess with the marketing and I have my own built-in audience. And I like the getting it to market quicker, which you do,
Right.
outside of traditional publishing. And I like owning my own content, frankly. Like, I'm not signing over, I don't need the money, quote unquote. And so and I agree. Like, there are times where I'm like, I think a traditional publisher would actually
Right.
take a serious look at this idea, because you are an expert, you're credentialed in this topic, and this, kind of, it may be niche, but it could be a broad niche. So that is you're absolutely right. That is a disruption.
Yeah. And some projects aren't that way. Some that have come across our desks the hooks are, run of the mill, like Wisdom for My Grandkids or something.
Yeah.
They're not bad, but they're not fresh.
Right.
But then there are the fresh ones,
yeah.
like I was saying. And, I don't know, 20 years ago, maybe every major publisher would have seen that book.
Right.
And now there
interesting.
is another viable option for this person that doesn't even include the major publishers.
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely speaks to some of the disruption that's going on. I think that's a really good point to end on, because if you're an author who's trying to figure this out, which way do I go? You got to be kind of aware of some of these machinations of the industry that are happening. And I think you're absolutely right, Andy. We've talked about this too. I've noticed a lot of what's happening in the industry, the larger industry, is the business is getting bigger and bigger. But the people themselves are saying, I want to opt out, and I want to stay local. I want to, just publish a book for my friends. I'm not in this for the money. So I do think that's who listens to this podcast. I mean, if you're into disruption, join it.
Yep. That's great.
Yeah.
Where can folks find you, Tom?
Yeah, probably Instagram, A Drop of Ink is the best place. My website is adropofink.pub, but that's really kind of that needs to be overhauled, frankly. So it
Don't
is,
they all?
Yeah, right.
Yes.
I mean, it is primarily a sales, website, and I don't need sales. So, but you could go see more about me on the website or on my Instagram.
Awesome.
Great.
Yeah. For me, it's andyrogersbooks.com.
Okay.
And my website needs an overhaul too. But
We're also busy doing the work of the work,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
but Facebook actually is where I've been putting more of my time lately than Instagram. I don't know why. It's just sort of evolved that way. But
good for you.
Facebook.com/AndyRogersBooks. So
There you
same
go.
as the URL.
Sounds good. Hey, thank you guys for being here. This was fun.
Yeah.
I'm
Thank
getting
you.
hungry,
Really-
so we got to go to lunch.
Really
But,
good.
You're
That
welcome. Been
That was a great
discussion.
conversation. Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
thanks again. And we'll catch you all next time.